Throughout time, people across the world told each other tales of how they came to be, of heroes and monsters, romance and tragedy, death and rebirth. Mythology helped shape the ancient world, explaining the unexplainable. This is Mythology Unleashed. The ancient Greeks and many other seafaring cultures believed the sea to be a treacherous place, filled with all manner of monsters. Giant serpents, merpeople, and demons that lured men to their doom with beautiful singing voices. But one of the greatest terrors of the Mediterranean Sea was the combination of Scylla and Charybdis, a monstrous pair that terrorized the Strait of Messina. On one side of the strait, in a rocky cove, lived Scylla, depicted as a massive beast with 6 carnivorous heads attached to long serpentine necks, 12 tentacle-like feet, and an appetite for human flesh. And on the opposite side, a distance measured at less than the flight of an arrow, dwelled Charybdis, variously described as either a submerged monster or a sentient whirlpool that would thrice each day draw in and push out large amounts of water, with such force that ships would be engulfed. Between the two monsters, no vessel could pass through the strait unscathed, for if they avoided Charybdis, the vessel would be attacked by Scylla, plucking 6 sailors off the ship at a time. And if the vessel avoided Scylla, then it would have been swallowed by Charybdis. A terrifying concept to choose between being eaten alive or having your entire vessel pulled beneath the waves never to return. But neither Scylla nor Charybdis began their existence as monsters. There are a number of conflicting reports as to how the abomination that is Scylla came to be. Most stories claim that her mother was Crataeis, while her father's identity is left unknown, though a number of later stories claim Phorcys as her father. Other stories claim that Scylla was the offspring of various other figures, with some of the most notable examples being the goddess Hecate, and even Typhon and Echidna, who together had produced a grand amount of monsters of Greek mythology. Likewise, the specific details as to how she became a multi-headed monster varies from tale to tale. But many follow a similar storyline of Scylla being a beautiful nymph who catches the attention of a powerful god, earning her the envy and wrath of a goddess who then curses her. In one version of the story, the god in question is none other than Poseidon, the god of the sea, who, like his brother Zeus, had a consistent habit of engaging in extramarital affairs. When Poseidon's wife Amphitrite discovered that her husband was attracted to the young nymph, she proceeded to poison the spring where Scylla would bathe, gradually metamorphosing Scylla into her monstrous form. In a different version, it was the sea god Glaucus who was in love with Scylla, and he visited Circe to commission a love potion in order to woo the lovely nymph. Unbeknownst to Glaucus, though, Circe was herself in love with the sea god. Embittered with jealousy and wrath, Circe gave to Glaucus an elixir, but it was not a love potion as he had believed, but instead a potion that transformed Scylla into the hideous beast when Glaucus gave it to her to drink. No matter the origin, Scylla spent the remainder of her days in a cave in the cliffs overlooking the Strait of Messina, stretching her necks out and plucking fish from the sea, and occasionally sailors from ships who happened to pass by her rock. Though she had an intense desire for human flesh, her 6 heads with long necks could only reach out so far. If a ship happened to sail on the far side of the strait, they would be safe, but then they would have to contend with Charybdis. Charybdis was notably more mysterious than her counterpart, both in description and in origin. Being much older than Scylla, Charybdis was said to be a beautiful Nereid, born of Gaia, the primordial personification of the earth, while her father was either Pontus, the primordial embodiment of the ocean, or Poseidon himself. According to legend, Poseidon and Zeus were feuding with one another, and to aid Poseidon, Charybdis caused several islands sacred to Zeus to sink into the sea, not only insulting the thunder god, but increasing Poseidon's own power. Enraged, the king of the gods smote her down with a thunderbolt, sending her to the bottom of the seafloor in the Strait of Messina, transforming her into a demon of the tides, drawing in vast amounts of water and any creature or ship unlucky enough to be in the vicinity. Scylla and Charybdis would be encountered by a number of heroes of Greek legend. The Argonauts, a crew of heroes and warriors under the command of Jason, had passed through the strait, but managed to circumvent the two terrors thanks to the aid of Hera, the queen of the gods, and the Nereid Thetis, who safely guided them away from danger. In some later tellings of the tale of Hercules, the super-strong hero passed through the strait upon his voyage home after stealing the cattle of Geryon for his 10th labor. Scylla reached out and ate several of the cattle off of Hercules' boat, and the warrior promptly beat the wretched monster to death. Afterwards, Scylla would be revived by Phorcys, allowing her to continue her shared reign of terror in the strait. Scylla and Charybdis' most prominent moment in mythology, however, comes in the epic tale The Odyssey, acting as two perils in a journey already fraught with peril. Odysseus, the king of Ithaca, on his way home from Troy, was to pass through the strait, but was warned of the great monsters by Circe, who gave Odysseus advice on how to proceed through the deadly passage. With Circe's guidance, Odysseus sailed closer to Scylla, having resigned to the truth that losing 6 of his men would be better than to lose the entire ship and all aboard it. As expected, Scylla readily consumed 6 of his men, and Odysseus and his crew rowed quickly away before it could strike again. Scylla was overcome, but Odysseus' troubles were far from over. Later on in the story, Odysseus found himself stranded on a raft, and was swept back through the strait, and passed dangerously close to Charybdis. His raft was sucked into her maw, but he survived by clinging to a fig tree growing on a rock over her lair. On the next outflow of water, when his raft was expelled, Odysseus recovered it and paddled away safely, his long and perilous journey still ahead of him. Greek mythology has a grand catalogue of monsters prowling within its tales, with many of the worst lurking in the sea. Yet few of the monsters of the sea encountered by Odysseus and other seafaring mortals were ever as dangerous or as outright bizarre as Scylla and Charybdis. Both born as beautiful elementals, both horribly disfigured into awful sea monsters, and both forever the bane of sailors who had to brave the Strait of Messina. On one side, a 6-headed dragon-like serpent with a voracious appetite, and on the other, a gigantic whirlpool with a mind of its own. Either option spelling certain doom for the unwary sailor who treads those waters. The combination of Scylla and Charybdis gave rise to an old saying, between a rock and a hard place. To this day, the monstrous duo of Scylla and Charybdis remain an iconic and terrifying part of both Greek mythology and nautical folklore.